Coming up on this edition of the Paw Report, my friend Amanda here and I will be talking about basic training, so stay tuned. That's all coming up next on the Paw Report. Production for the Paw Report is made possible by
Inyart Tire and Auto Center in Charleston and Mattoon. Inyart offers complete auto repair. Inyart Tire and Auto Center cares about our community and thanks you for being a responsible pet owner. More information at inyart.com.
Hello and welcome to the Paw Report. I'm your host, Kate Pleasant, and I'm joined today by Jim Sears from Canine Estates. Thanks for coming, Jim.
Thanks for having me.
And Jim, you're a dog trainer, right?
Yes.
You've been doing this for a little while?
Since I've been 14 years old.
That's a little while.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Okay.
I've learned a lot by experience.
I can imagine that you have. And so we're talking today just kind of about basic training. And when you get a new puppy, what kinds of things should you be doing? So do you want to start off with kind of your basics from when you get the puppy? Step one, what do you do training-wise?
Can we go back a little bit farther?
Sure, let's go back further.
Even picking out the right puppy, you can actually do a temperament test at 8 weeks old.
Okay.
And at 8 weeks, if you do this temperament test, what you see is what you get if you develop the temperament right as the puppy's growing up, okay? I picked this puppy out because she was outgoing, snooped around a lot.
That's Amanda for everybody that's watching.
Yeah. She's
down there
right
wandering
now.
around. There she is.
She's a French poodle.
Okay.
And they're actually bred in Germany. And they were bred
French poodle bred in Germany.
Yes, and they were actually bred to be water spaniels.
Okay.
And then France took them over, and they liked the way they could stand their hair up and stuff like that. But anyway, back to training.
It's easy to get off course.
Yeah.
So.
If you're going to have a house pet, the best thing to do is get a crate, just big enough for the dog to stand up and turn around. You can actually get them now where they're big enough to where the crate will grow with the dog, okay? So it's got a false back you can bring up from the front to the back, and then as the dog gets bigger, you can move it back. You don't want them to have too much room. And at 6 o'clock in the evening, no more food, no more water. Then take them out last time at 9 o'clock. And when you first get them, take them out every hour in the right spot and area. And I highly recommend a flexi lead when you take out the dog. That way they have more freedom to go to the restroom and they don't feel like they're right on top of you. And when you're outside and the dog's outside, I do marker training. And when she goes to the bathroom, I give her a mark it with a yes and give her a treat. Not when I come back in, because if you do it when you come back in, it takes them too long to chain it together. They think they're getting rewarded for coming in.
I think I've done that with my dogs. I'm a bad doggy trainer. They go out just to come in to get the treats, I think, sometimes.
Right.
So.
And you want them to know that it's okay that they can go to the restroom in front of you. Because a lot of dachshunds, they'll go behind the couch and go to the bathroom because they think, well, if they don't see me, it's okay.
I see. So it's like kind of a hiding type of thing, privacy, you know.
Right.
And if they can't see it, then they don't need to know. So, okay. So a little marker training can help with that.
Yep.
Okay.
And then to get your dog more
kind of acclimated.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
I know, one of those words coming up with that. So
yeah, and to get more, get a puppy exercise pin or a puppy play pin.
Kind of like an X pin or something like that.
Exactly. And let them spend time in there too. And if you cannot watch them all the time when they're puppies, because the more they go to the bathroom, the harder it's going to be to break them. So if you got to go do the dishes or something, or help your wife iron the clothes or something, put the puppy in the exercise pen in the house. Then as they get older, you can let them have more of the house.
And that helps with the house breaking?
Oh, yes, definitely. And I really like starting out early, training the dog to come with a whistle or your voice command, and even with like a sit and a down. And we got this one sitting, downing, sit, stay, jump through a hoop, chewing on rugs.
Well, they're puppies. That's what they do.
Yeah, and you want to have plenty of toys, like 3 or 4 toys for them to chew on and stuff. And if they start chewing on something, just give them a nice no or and trade them for that.
Show them the toy they should be chewing on,
Right.
in other words. Give them
Right.
something they're supposed to do.
Right. Now what she's wanting is she's wanting to play.
Uh-huh.
So
She's
So,
looking real nice
yeah.
at you there. She's
Sit.
sitting.
sit, and she's going to stay for me. Yes.
Good job, Amanda. Yeah, she's
And-
doing good.
She's 4 months old.
Oh, okay.
And I'm housebreaking her and teaching her some tricks and stuff and how to come to the whistle and things like that. And as your dog gets older and you want to go for longer walks, you definitely want a flexi lead.
Give them a little freedom.
Yeah, give them a lot more, because a 6-foot lead is more for training, not for the dog to walk and enjoy, you know?
So should you start leash training them and things when they are little
Yes,
like that? I mean, because
yeah.
I assume the sooner you start anything, the better they're going to be at learning it. It's a little
Right.
harder maybe later down the road.
Right. When we got her at 8 weeks, the collar went on, the leash went on, the flexi went on, and that's how she learned that I can have all this on and go to the restroom. And you know, just start it right off the bat.
And what's the easiest way to kind of leash train a dog when you first get them? Because I know they want to pull and they want to yank and they, you know.
They'll do that, and the best way is when they stay close to you and they're not pulling, mark it with a yes or a good boy and give them a treat.
Okay. So training with, you know, that positive reinforcement, is that what you do?
Yes.
The treats, they're associating that with something good so they
Right.
continue that behavior?
Yes.
Okay. And so what else are some of the basic things? What are the kind of basic commands we need to teach them from day one?
I like to teach them to sit, down, come when I call them with a whistle. I like to whistle.
Right.
Or like say the dog's name and then come. And when they come, give them a treat every time. And I used to do search and rescue too. And I had a German Shepherd that I trained for search and rescue. And I would whistle, okay? Then I donated this dog to Southern Illinois, to the search and rescue team down there after I trained it. And 2 years later, they came back and I whistled and the dog still came to
So
me.
they don't forget, huh?
They don't forget.
Okay,
You
so
know?
it's day one, they'll remember what the training you
Yep.
start with.
After a year, I started just using praise. Whistle, praise. And then sometimes I'd mix it up. That way, if I didn't have treats on me, it was no big deal, then I could just praise them.
I see a lot of that, you know, with like police dogs. They do a lot of, you know, when the dog does the command, they get rewarded with a treat, you
Yes,
know, or they get
or the
to,
ball.
or the ball or the toy or
Yeah.
whatever it is. And so is that similar to the praise? Is
Yes,
that, you know,
that's-
whatever they associate
yeah.
that's positive?
Yeah, the dog actually is doing it for the ball and the enjoyment of the interaction with the police officer and having the ball and playing the tug with the, you know.
And so when you tell a dog, you know, come, when you're first training and it doesn't know what you want. So how do you teach it that that's what you're wanting out of it?
Basically, you do whatever it takes to get the dog to come. Use your flexi, okay? And like this one here, if you go back, Amanda, come, and put your hand down like that, and they see the hand. This, if your dog, you should get your dog to come from this far, okay? If they don't come this far, they're sure not going to come
From all the way across
from
the
all
room.
the way across
So
the yard.
start small, maybe.
Yeah, start small and say, Amanda, come, and put your hand down like that, and then you got the food there, and they see the body language, they see the hand, they know
They're
what
watching all of that.
Yes, they're more susceptible to body language than they are the verbal command.
Okay.
So you put the verbal command with the body language, like when we have them sit, I show her the treat, get her attention, tell her sit. No. See, when she gets up, you just tell her no. Don't be mean to her. Sit. Yes.
Very
I'm glad she did that,
good,
so
yeah.
you can see. Don't punish her. She's still learning.
They
She's
don't know, right.
No, she's still in the learning phase, the teaching phase. That's like if I start the third grade and the teacher asks me a very difficult question. No, she's not going to whack me.
Yeah, so you want to be, it's a gentle response.
Right.
Okay, and patience. I'm sure it takes patience to train a dog.
More patience than a hospital has.
And so is it something that, is there a certain number of repetitions it takes before a dog understands, or is it just,
A lot.
is it constant? You have to do it all the time?
Dog training is a process, not an event. And when you dog train, it does take patience. You're better off to work with the dog for like 3 to 5 minutes at a time, yeah. And then it is to do it for 15, 20 minutes. But you can do it several times a day for 3 or 4 minutes. Or 5.
Sure.
And then as the dog gets older, you can stretch out those the time period.
It's a little bit like children.
Yes.
Because they have shorter attention spans when they're little, because they're still curious and learning about everything in the world. And so the older they get, the longer attention spans they have. I guess it's the same with puppies.
Right.
So they've got a lot to learn at first too. So maybe, shorter time spans. What are some really helpful commands to teach dogs? Like I taught my dogs to leave it, which is a good one, I think, because, I've dropped things on the floor that I don't want them to get a hold of before that aren't safe.
You're right.
So are there other helpful commands like that?
Yes. And when I like to use the word just no, because no means the action you're doing, I want to stop it.
Has to stop immediately,
Yeah.
right?
That way the dog doesn't have to learn a lot of different words. Like if my dog took off after a cat, I don't have to say, leave the cat alone. Don't go around the building.
Right.
Just a nice,
Simple
crisp no, and then put a command to it and call the dog back. They'll stop immediately, because I can say, the time you say, oh no, don't go around the building, they don't
It's
know
gone.
it's gone. But just the word no, or our command to call the dog back is sufficient.
Okay. And so is there other things that we should be doing when we first get them home to make sure they're ready for the training?
Basically, give them about a week, and let them get used to the house, let them get used to their surroundings, and a routine is more important than anything. Get them on a routine on going outside, feeding them. We feed this guy at a girl at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then she gets fed again at night at 5, and then she goes outside like every hour at first. Now we're to every 2 hours, and every 2 hours, and that helps, and it makes them comfortable for the training.
Right.
And then it's nice to put them up on a table too, to train them and to get them off the ground when they're this small.
Okay.
And that way they're out of their elements and you got their attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So they need to be ready with the routine and everything before you just throw them right into training, because that's new too.
Right.
Okay. And you've heard the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. What do you think about that?
You can.
You can?
Yeah. I do the sport of Schutzhund, okay? My first Schutzhund dog I got imported from Belgium, okay? That dog did not know English, okay? So what I done was I would say the command in English first, then the Belgium command, and then the dog would anticipate, knowing I was going to say the Belgium command next, then I just left out the Belgium command.
So it would associate the English command
Right.
with the Belgian command and action, essentially.
Right, and then you just leave off the Belgium command and the dog knows English, or German, or whatever you want to use.
Okay. So can you tell us what Schutzhund is, for those that are maybe not familiar with it? It's a dog sport, right?
It's a dog sport. It's probably one of the difficult dog sports there is, but the most rewarding. I like it. And the dog does a lot of the stuff like what police dogs do, but it's for civilians. They actually do the protection part, and they have to do it totally in control, under control, off leash. And then they have to do an obedience routine. They have to jump over an A-frame and do all kinds of stuff for obedience. And then they also have to track and indicate 3 articles on the track. Lay down, and you have to pick it up, show the judge, and then you move on.
Okay, and so that's a competitive sport,
Yes,
I assume.
very.
And I assume also that it takes a certain kind of dog for that, personality-wise.
Yes, that's where you go back to the puppy temperament test, and then you pick one out that wants to do it. If the dog doesn't want to do it, you can't make it do it.
Right. So is the basic training for that sport the same as your basic training for any dog?
Yes.
Okay.
You started out but then for that too, you get like a buggy whip and you tie a toy on the end, and it's called the flirt pole, and you tease the dog with it, and they chase it, and they grab it and they play with it, and that builds more of the prey drive in the dog.
Okay.
Which a lot of pet people doesn't want that much prey drive.
I see. But for the sport, you would definitely
For the sport,
want
you
that.
definitely do. And then you take that and then you convert that to the ball, and then from the ball, you can use the ball for the reward instead of having food. But then when you go to competition, you're not allowed to use no food or
anything.
You're just you and your dog.
Wow. So I mean, that's a very under control, well trained animal at that point.
Yes.
Okay. And so, what has your experience with that been like? Have you traveled doing that sport? And
I've traveled all over the USA, and I've won 4 national titles with it.
how did you get into that sport?
I started out with search and rescue, and I was very successful in that, but people don't get lost very often.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, well, that's great. So I'm sitting at home really doing nothing, so I wanted to get into something that I could do more with my dog, so I went from there to the Schutzhund. I've done AKC. I've put titles on Irish Wolfhounds, Poodles, Dobermans, different breeds. And it doesn't matter about what breed it is, it's the temperament.
It all comes back to that temperament.
It all comes back to the temperament.
Amanda's temperament is playful. She's
Yes.
playing right here, right now. That's not a bad thing.
No,
She seems happy though.
And I picked her out because she was playful. I like that.
Yeah, and so is this something, like Amanda per se, she's young. So is there continuous training that you should do with animals as they get older? I mean, do you need to remind them?
Yes, and the older they get, the more, basically the first year of having a puppy is
Kind of critical.
yeah, and it's not as much fun as the second and third year because there's a lot of work.
Right.
And the first 3 to 4 months having a new puppy in your home is the worst, because of your lifestyle's changing.
Sure. Everybody's adjusting to the routine
Right.
and the dog itself, and they make messes. There's things that you have to be aware of with that.
Yep.
So
And if a dog does go to the restroom on the carpet, white vinegar, cheap, you buy it anywhere you want, and you spray it and clean it up with soap and water, and then spray it with white vinegar because it breaks down the enzymes and stuff where the dog can't smell it. Because
Okay.
actually, like we also trained a dog for arson. Okay, that dog can smell. Gasoline has 7 different particles in it. Okay, dogs can smell each of those particles.
wow, separately, huh?
Yes, separately. Like when you go into a house, somebody's cooking spaghetti, you smell the whole thing. The dog can smell the salt, the pepper, the oregano,
garlic, yeah.
the garlic, everything as an individual. So you teach the dog that particle that's left, this is what we want to find, okay? And then you put importance behind it, like the reward, and then the dog becomes an arson dog.
Okay, so that's kind of how that works. That would make sense. If we were going to, have someone train our dog for us, what should we be looking for in a good trainer?
A good trainer that will guarantee it. I guarantee my training, satisfaction, and someone that you can talk to that uses teaching. And then later on, when the dog gets older, then if you want to put, you always got to have the want to. You got to put that there first. Make sure the trainer puts the want to behind, and then later on, then you put the have to on there. And just if you do the training properly, and the dog wants to, but then say if there's a squirrel going across the yard, then you got to get a little firmer and put the have to on the dog.
So would you recommend, for all dogs to be trained? Because I know
Yes.
some people don't train their dogs at all. I mean, some
Yes.
dogs can just sit, but do you think it's important for a dog to be trained?
Yes, very important.
Why would you
Because-
say that?
Because you'll enjoy your dog a lot more, and your dog and you are more bonded together, and stuff, and you'll enjoy your dog a lot more.
Just because it's easier, for the relationship, you think? Or?
Right.
Okay. Amanda's chewing on her
Yeah.
leash over here. She's having a really good time, but that's puppies for you.
Right.
So, and that's like we mentioned earlier, that's why you have to start little with
Right.
training puppies, a couple of minutes here and there, a couple times a day, because they're just like little kids. Their attention spans are short. So, All right, well, Jim Sears from K9 Estates, we thank you for coming in and working with us today and talking about basic training. So
Well, thanks for having me.
Hopefully a couple people have learned some things out there and train up their dogs. So.
Well, thanks for having me.
And thank you out there for watching the Paw Report. We'll see you next time.
Have a video or photo of your pet doing something funny or absolutely adorable? We'd love to share it with our viewers here at the Paw Report. Email it to weiu@weiu.net and you can see it on our show. Just make sure it's video taken by you or that you have permission to share it. For more information about how to get that video or photo to us, email or call 217-581-5956.
We're here on the Paw Report set kind of after the show with Dr. Marcy Kirk, and we're going to ask her a question that I got from a viewer about what happens if your dog bites somebody. I thought this might be a nice little extra for our viewer. So what happens if your dog bites somebody? What's the process?
Sure. Well, depending on the severity of the bite, we definitely recommend going and seeing a doctor,
right?
An actual human doctor. And they are legally required to report a bite, no matter how severe it is. If they come in with an animal bite, they have to report it because of the risk of rabies. And that's the main disease that we worry about. So if after a bite has been reported, then they have to be quarantined. And there are several options, but you work that out with the animal shelter or the county vet that you are in that area. They can do it at the shelter. There's options for home or at a veterinary clinic. And we do that for 10 days. And there's reasons for that. We just don't want any human contact for that time. And after that, then they can be released. And if they're not up to date on vaccines, you can get those updated or kind of deal with your vet there. But once a bite has happened and it's been reported, they have to go into quarantine.
And who are they reporting this to?
Usually it's to the county vet, and they can make final decisions about where quarantines and how long they have to go. But legally, 10 days is how long.
Okay, and what are the, when the decisions are being made, what are the thought processes behind being quarantined at the veterinary office, at home, or at the shelter? So
some people will look at the cost of which one, might be the cheapest, but you have to have a licensed veterinarian supervising or signing off on the home quarantine. And to do that, a quarantine, they have to be surrounded by walls and a ceiling, so they have no chance of getting outside or having human contact. So they can't just be outside in your backyard because they could jump the fence or something like that. So it has to be a 5-sided shelter. And so if you don't have something like that, then you're definitely going to have to go to your vet clinic or to the shelter, whichever one's available to you. But if you can find a veterinarian that's willing to come in and inspect the area and say it, but the thing is that people don't realize they can't even go outside to go to the bathroom. Like, they have to be in this area, because that if they got off their leash or the leash broke and they bit someone else, it's a whole different situation.
Okay.
And testing for rabies is not something that most owners want to do.
Right. And so what is the 10 days? Is that just for observation? Is it for?
Yep, it's for observation because in theory, if they do have rabies and they have bitten someone, which is a symptom of having rabies, they will either show more symptoms or they can die if you start showing symptoms, because everybody knows rabies is a fatal condition.
Right.
Or if they've made it past the 10 days, then we assume that they don't have it. They're healthy. They've gone past the 10 days that they should have either succumbed to the disease or not.
Okay. So if your dog bites somebody, just be ready for those repercussions. So, do you have recommendations for, even non-aggressive dogs? So dogs do bite. So what's your recommendation? Is it leashes, fences?
I definitely recommend, especially with kids, never leave a dog unsupervised, or cat unsupervised with kids, because it's just, everybody's unpredictable in that situation. No matter if every dog is trustworthy until the one time that they're not, and they could just step on them wrong and they just got startled. And so I do think, supervision is the key. I am a big, and I could be on a soapbox forever about leashes. There's a leash law in Coles County. They have to be on leashes when they're not in your yard. I'll be walking my dog and dogs will just run up to us, and that's a really scary situation. I don't know what their temperament is. I know what my dog's is, but I'm not gonna let them bite my dog, and so I might get in the way, and that's not something you wanna do.
Right.
So leashes for sure. And then, there's all kinds of fencing that you can do if you want your dog to be out in the backyard. Obviously, chain link, people can still get their hands through and still be at risk, and ultimately, unfortunately, you're liable for that, even if they're on your property. So I like the fences that people can't get into. They're a little bit more expensive, but it's just that much more safety for you and your pet.
Okay, and so that is true. If your dog bites someone, you're responsible, regardless of the
regardless of
situation.
how it happens. They can come onto your property, even if they weren't invited and they are trespassing, you are still responsible for it,
Okay,
unfortunately.
So keep an eye on your dogs and avoid legal repercussions. So, well, Dr. Kirk, thank you for talking to us about animal bites. We appreciate it. Did you know full episodes of the Paw Report are on YouTube? They can be accessed at www.youtube.com/WEIUTV. Then just go to the Paw Report playlist and select the episode you want to see. More information about the show is also available 24/7 on our website at weiu.net under the Television tab. Production for the Paw Report is made possible by
Inyart Tire and Auto Center in Charleston and Mattoon. Inyart offers complete auto repair. Inyart Tire and Auto Center cares about our community and thanks you for being a responsible pet owner. More information at inyart.com.